So now I want to talk a little bit about plagiarism, and particularly plagiarism when it comes to citations. So oftentimes you will see accidental plagiarism in citations. And usually this is a careless mistake. It's not an intentional thing, it's just a simple mistake. And these are easily fixed, right? These are things that perhaps an editor, a reviewer will simply remind you, say, I think you need to put a citation here, or something like that. It's not intentional, it's not malicious, it's just a simple mistake. And we all make these kind of simple mistakes. Um, but you also need to think about like citing common knowledge. It may seem redundant to make a citation for common knowledge, like perhaps Watson and Crick. You will cite. We all know Watson and Crick created the structure for DNA, right? Um, but still, it's beneficial to put that citation in there when you're talking. If you actually talk about that journal article, so even if you think that it's common knowledge that everybody knows about, it's still fine, easy, no problem to put a citation in there. You also have to think about cultural differences. Different cultures, different, even within school cultures, like maybe different schools will have different standards on what is more like cite everything or don't cite everything. So you have to think about that. And the safest bet usually is just to cite everything. It's better for an editor and a reviewer to say, you don't need a citation here, than for them to say, this is potentially plagiarizing, you need to put a citation here, right? And also, again, paraphrasing, it's very difficult, especially if you're trying to paraphrase technical text. Um, Technical text is usually exclusive and it's difficult to paraphrase that kind of thing. So you have to be aware that even if you think you're paraphrasing, you might actually be better off directly quoting. So be aware of that. So plagiarism can come in different forms. If you copy and paste directly, you have to make sure that you're giving citation, that you're putting quotation marks, right? Verbatim copying. Make sure that you're quoting, and of course, that you're giving some kind of citation, that you're giving credit where it's due. Poor paraphrasing, like I said, reproducing text, just simply mixing up words is not proper paraphrasing, right? There's a lot more that can go into that. Self-plagiarism, text recycling. If you use your own work, you have to cite that, right? Not citing something of your own published work is plagiarism, right? It maybe seems weird, but even if you cite your own work, that needs to be correctly cited and put into the work cited. So self-plagiarism, this is something that can be a bit confusing, right? So it is a type of plagiarism in which the writer republishes a work in its entirety or reuses portions of a previous written text while authoring a new work. Now, obviously, plagiarism would say, publishing a work in its entirety is very bad and it's not something you would do. But many people don't realize that even taking a little bit, like perhaps a sentence or a paragraph, you need to correctly cite that and make sure that you are, either quoting it or, at the very least giving a citation. So authors are often unaware that this is an ethical issue and that you have to be aware of self-plagiarism. So what's the big deal about self-plagiarism? Well, it can actually lead to, rejection of a paper. Like if a journal editor actually catches you in a self-plagiarism, that can be detrimental to you actually getting published. So how do you avoid this? Well, acknowledge any original source of information. Any kind of original idea or words have to be cited, right? There has to be an acknowledge of any kind of original source. Make sure that you safeguard against plagiarism. You use quotation marks. If you are simply copying and pasting a sentence or a block paragraph, that you actually put those in quotation marks, right? And there is a site with page numbers if that's required. Make sure that you do and give as much information as possible so that people can find that. Paraphrase correctly. Like I said, paraphrasing is quite difficult. Changing only a few words here and there is plagiarism. It's not paraphrasing correctly. So make sure that you're doing it correctly. And of course, you are always citing. Take notes. Like we talked about at the beginning, every single source that you read, if you take good notes about those sources, it's going to make it easier for you to avoid plagiarism. So that's why, either handwritten notes or, binders full of papers like that, or, the nice electronic sources that you use, they are there to help you, right? To organize your notes, to organize your sources, and to help you from, making sure that you don't plagiarize. And of course, acknowledging common scientific knowledge, even if you think it's something that is common knowledge that everybody knows about, you still should cite it. You still should give credit to the people that made that common knowledge. Right? And then use as little sources as possible. Now, I know the literature review is, the purpose of a literature review is to talk about what is out there, to talk about the sources that are out there, but it doesn't mean that you have to put everything in there. So use as little as possible. Use only the ones that are most relevant to your research, and that'll give you, just by simple numbers, less possible chances of plagiarizing.